Hello everyone, welcome to Salesforce Apex Hours. My name is Meera Nair and today's topic is Salesforce Solution Design considering performance metrics. Many thanks to our founder Amit Chowdhury for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge with the community. A little about myself. I am currently working as a Salesforce architect in UST Global Trivandrum, India. I have total of 14 years of IT experience, 11 of which has been on the Salesforce platform. I have worked with many Fortune 50 customers who of course have got very large Salesforce implementations with lots of customization. Recently, I worked with one such customer and they were struggling with Salesforce performance issues like record save time was very high for them, especially for objects like account and opportunity. They were getting frequent SOQL 101 issues, especially for the operations like when they are trying to clone an opportunity which already has products. And also, page load performance was very poor, like it was taking more than 5 seconds when the standard is less than 2 seconds. We can assume that the major reason could be the large customization present in their org. On detailed analysis, we found that there are multiple reasons behind this performance issue, like low performing SQL queries, unoptimized Apex code, Visual Force pages with lots of JavaScript logic which is slowing down the initial page load. But we found that main problem was caused by n number of process builders existing in the system. In the past 2 years, they actually migrated many of their existing workflow field updates and trigger logic to process builders. But how this can cause performance issues? Let us cover all these topics as part of today's session. I will take you through some sample Salesforce scenarios, different solution options for that, and then let us capture performance metrics to see which is the best solution option for us. Also, let us see some sample SQL query optimization techniques and some techniques to improve page load performance. This is mainly for classic view. Now, let us see our first scenario. I would like to concatenate opportunity name with account name. That is my requirement. Suppose the account name is account ABC and opportunity name is opportunity XYZ. So once the opportunity is saved, I would like to see opportunity name as account ABC hyphen opportunity XYZ. So Salesforce provides multiple solution options for this. You can use a workflow field update, a process builder, or a flow which uses fast field update or a before update trigger. Let us see each solution option. So before getting started, there is an important step that you need to do. That is, you need to enable debug log. Let us do that first. So this is one of my developer edition. Let us go to debug log and I'm going to create a new debug log for my user. First, what you need to do is create a new debug level. So when you create a new debug level, make sure like the database is at the finest level, workflow is also at the finer level, Apex code at the finest level, and the other important thing is that you need to make Apex profiling also at the finest level. So this is important for us to capture all the governor limits related details. Let us give a name as Apex Hours Debug. Let me save this. So you can see the debug level is automatically populated here. Let us select the user now and set the start and expiration date. Now let me see the debug log. It's already set. Now let us go back to our first solution option. This is a workflow field update. I'm sure I don't need to explain this, but let me go back to the actual Let us execute the workflow field update and see like how you can capture all the performance related metrics. So I have the workflow rule created here already, which is to append the opportunity name with the account name. But this is not yet activated because I have got different solution options like a workflow field update process builder. So I want to execute each solution at a time. So now let us activate this particular workflow rule. Okay, the workflow rule is activated. Now let us go to the workflow rule is activated. So let us go and create a new account, which is for our demo purpose. Let me name it as account ABC. I'm just populating all the required fields. You need to make sure like there is an active field corresponding to account and make sure it is yes. Then only our workflow rule will fire. Save this. Account is created already. Now let us create a new opportunity under this particular account. Populate all the required fields. I'm giving the opportunity name as opportunity XYZ, close date as a future date, and stage as prospecting. And the important thing is that you need to populate account. So account ABC is populated under account name. Now let us see the opportunity. You can see like the opportunity name got appended with the account name, which is account ABC. Let us go to developer console and see the debug details. Let me open this particular debug to see the performance detail. This is our debug log and this is the normal view. But if you want to capture the performance related details, we need to do a switch perspective option for this particular debug. Go to switch perspective and select analysis. When you select this, you will be getting a view like this. Under this, you can see different tabs like stack tree, execution overview, and execution stack. Execution overview is very important for us because under this you can see a tab called limits. Here we don't have any information available because a workflow field update is not consuming any DML or SOQL statement. But if you go to execution tree and performance tree, you will be able to see the total duration consumed by this operation. You can see the total time taken for this particular opportunity save operation is 132.68 milliseconds. Just for a tracking purpose, I have got another table where I already executed all these operations and tracked the details. But let us capture at least two operations to see like how you will be able to capture the details. So currently we have executed workflow and the total time taken for this operation is 132.68. This is just to make sure that the difference that we captured is correct. And solution time, how you can capture, just expand this and here you can see the actual time consumed by just the workflow opportunity field update operation. It is 43.61. Let us track that time also. DML statement is 0 because it's not consuming anything and SOQL is also 0. Now what you need to do is let us deactivate this particular workflow field update. I deactivated workflow field update and let us activate process builder. This is my process builder. This is a simple one. Process builder is on opportunity object. For now, I'm just executing this PB when the record is created. And the criteria I have given is if the opportunity account is active. If it is active, the field update will be executed and it will be appending account name with opportunity name. It's not in active stage at this moment, so let me activate it. So make sure workflow is deactivated and process builder is activated. Now let us create a new opportunity. Let us clone this. I'm just removing the account portion of this opportunity XYZ PB to just make sure this is from PB, and let me save this opportunity. You can see that again opportunity name got appended with the account name. Let us capture the metrics. Let me open the debug log for the current operation. This is our debug log for the process builder field update. Now let us switch the view. Let us open the limits tab, and here you can see that we have SOQL and DML counts available here. So let us track that. DML, you can see out of 150, which is the governor limit, we have used 1 DML, and SOQL also out of the limit 100, we have used 1 statement. Let us track both. This is for PP, so DML and SOQL let me capture. Now let us go back and see how much time the total transaction consumed. For that, let us go to performance tree, expand this. The total time consumed by the opportunity save operation using the PB is 280. Now, let us say the time consumed by the solution, that is the actual field update operation. So the process builder is also getting captured as a workflow, and you can see the time consumed is 191 milliseconds. You can see there is a marginal difference, right? Because the workflow field update is just consuming 43 milliseconds, whereas PB is consuming 191. And if you consider DML statement, workflow is not consuming anything, but a process builder is consuming 1 DML and 1 SOQL. Now let us go back to our presentation. Workflow field update we already covered, process builder we already covered. Next option is the flow, which is utilizing fast field update. Now, what is a fast field update? Let me open the corresponding flow. I think I have, this is my flow, which has got a start. And once you double click on the start, right, you can see an option here called new or updated records. Flow makes fast field update. If you mark this flow as this option, it will get automatically executed before the record is getting saved to the database. So you might be thinking, like, if you have a process builder, like if you can implement something using a process builder, why you need to utilize a flow for the same operation? So the order of execution clearly defines why you need that. This is Salesforce documentation on the order of execution, and you can see once the record is loaded and once it fetches all the values from DB, the third operation it executes is the flow operation, which makes before save updates. So all the operations will be getting executed after that only. And if you see for a PB, right, the PB is coming as almost the 14th action, and it is happening after the record is saved to database. That's the reason why the process builder is consuming additional DML statement for executing the field update. Now let us go back to the flow. So first here we are checking if the account is active. If the account is active, I am fetching the account record from which we need to fetch the account name. So I am fetching the account name, and it is getting stored to a temporary variable or a for variable called account name. And using an assignment operation, I am updating opportunity name as account name plus opportunity name. This is how the flow is getting executed. I think I don't need to go to each and every operation to track the time because I have done that operation already. So let us go back and let us see the last operation, which is the field update. Field update, I'm sure I don't need to explain the logic, which is very simple. I'm just iterating over all the opportunities and collecting the account IDs. Then for all those accounts, I am fetching the name. Again, iterating over the opportunity, getting the account details from the account map and appending the name with account name. This is what is happening within the trigger. We have seen like how to capture the performance metrics already, and using this approach, I captured already all the performance metrics for 4 solution options. You can see this for a workflow, process builder, a flow, and a trigger. And we can see a tabular representation here. In this, I have executed the operation for a single record and also for bulk records, which is for around 20 records. For single record, let us see the details. Like we have seen before, a workflow is consuming just 189 total time of execution, whereas a process builder, in my scenario when I executed it before, it was consuming around 369. And if you just consider the solution time, that is the time taken to just execute the field update, for a workflow it is 51, but for a process builder it is 270, which is really high compared to the workflow. And DML statement, you can see workflow and trigger and flow is not consuming any DML operation because it is always getting executed before the record is saved to the database. But a process builder is consuming a single DML statement. If you consider a SOQL statement also, workflow is not consuming anything, whereas all other operations like trigger, flow, and process builder is consuming one SOQL statement. If you go to bulk operation, right, you can see the difference is even higher. Workflow is consuming just 238 milliseconds, whereas process builder is 810 milliseconds. Do you know why this difference is? Even if we say the process builder is bulkified, when you are inserting or updating bulk record, the process builder is getting executed for each record, and at the end only it's consolidating all the results and doing a single update operation. So the time difference is happening because of the time taken to process each record. That's why the difference here is. And even the solution time, you can see for a process builder it is high, but DML statement and SOQL, you can see it is consuming one. Now, if you see a graphical representation here, you can see the difference here clearly. And so definitely for this kind of simple scenarios, a workflow field update is the best option for us. Let us go to the second scenario. I would like to concatenate and populate child contact country value to parent account country field value. That is, if we have two contacts, contact 1 and contact 2 with two country values India and China, once the account is saved, I would like to see the country value as India, China. That is my requirement. Now, again, Salesforce is providing multiple solution options for that. I just captured some of those here. First two options actually using process builder with flow and process builder with invocable Apex method. Now we have got two trigger solutions, an after update trigger and also an asynchronous trigger. Asynchronous trigger, I think it's a Spring 19 feature. So I'll explain more details when we are going to that particular solution option. And the last one is a queuable Apex, again an asynchronous mode of execution. Again, like we did before, we need to enable debug log and capture all the details. First one is a process builder with flow. Let us go to our developer instance. This is my process builder, and here you can see the process builder is on contact, and the condition is when a contact is created or edited, and it's checking for this particular criteria, like it is new contact or the country value got changed. If the condition is getting satisfied, it is basically calling a flow, which is to populate the account country, and we are passing two parameters. I think first one you can ignore, I'm not utilizing that particular variable. Second one is basically contact IDs, meaning I'm fetching all the contacts under that particular account and passing it to the flow. Now let us see the flow actually. Yes, this is the flow. So we have start, and in the loop basically I am iterating over all the contacts which is passed to this particular flow and checking if the country is not null. If the country is not null, what I am doing, I have got a flow variable for storing the country field values for that particular account, and I am checking if the string variable does not already contain that particular country value. I am appending that to that particular variable. Again, the loop is continuing till all the contacts are processed. Once all the contacts are processed, I am getting the account record, and which needs to be updated with this country field value, and the actual update operation is happening here. This is what it is doing. So let us do one thing. Let us activate this process builder and execute the operation. I have activated the process builder now. Let us go ahead and create a new contact. I'm populating all the mandatory fields. Make sure you are populating the country also. And let me choose country as India. Let us save this record. Let us go to account and make sure that the account country is populated as India. Yes, you can see the account country is populated as India. Now let us open the debug log. This is the debug log for contact save operation. Let us switch perspective and move to analysis mode. If you open the limits, you can see number of SOQL statements that got executed is 3 and DML is 1. Let us track this for a comparison purpose. So we have executed a PB plus flow, number of DML statements 1, SOQL is 3. And let us track the time executed also. Go to performance tree. You can see the total time it took to execute the process builder is 970 milliseconds, which is really high. Okay, let us track that. 970 milliseconds, and let us see how many milliseconds it took for just executing the process builder. Wow, it is 812. Let's track that one also. Seems like comparatively high, right? It also depends upon my network speed. Okay, I think now it's not so good. That's why you are seeing this much high time. Normally it won't be this much high. That's okay for a comparison purpose. So we have captured it for a process builder plus flow. Now let us go to our second option. Second option is using a process builder and invocable Apex. So we have got an invocable Apex which is executing the logic. Let us go back and see that. Let me close some of this. You can see this is my invocable method for updating the account country. The logic is very simple. I am iterating over all the contacts and getting account IDs. Then for those account IDs, I am querying and fetching all the contacts under that and getting its country and appending to a string variable. Then I am keeping that into a map which holds like account ID to the country map. Here then I am iterating over each of the account and updating account with the actual country value which is concatenated. Let us go back Make sure that you are deactivating the process builder corresponding to flow call. Let me deactivate. And I have got another process builder which is calling the invocable method. You can see it here. This is calling the Apex action populate account country. Let us activate this one and create a new contact and see if the account country is getting updated, and let us track the performance also. Click on new. Populate all the mandatory fields including account name. This time let us populate the country as United States and save the record. Let us go back to the account to make sure now the country field value is India, United States. Yes, it's India, United States. Now let us go to developer console to track the time. Let us move to analysis mode. Go to limits tab and see, okay, number of SOQL got executed is 1 and number of DMS statement is also 1. Let us track that. Now, you can see the major differences on the SOQL count. For a PB plus Apex, it's just 1, but for PB plus 4, it is 3. Later, let us see like where it is actually consuming 3 SOQL queries. And let us capture the transaction time also. Go to performance tree. The total time taken is 341 milliseconds. It is very less compared to the PB plus flow time. And let us see the solution time also. It's 150 milliseconds only. You can see separately the time taken by the Apex class execution and also the process builder. So let us track the campaign time, which is 150 milliseconds. Cool. Now let us see the third option. It is after update trigger. I'm sure I don't need to explain this. Logic is almost same as what we have seen in the invocable Apex. It's just iterating over all the contacts under that account, getting the country code values, concatenating and populating back to account. Queuable Apex, again here the logic is also the same, but only difference is that this is a trigger on account, but from the trigger it is calling a queuable method. The advantage is that it's going to get executed asynchronously. That is, your current transaction is not going to get affected by this actual operation of country population on account. Now, asynchronous trigger. Let us spend some time here. So, what is asynchronous trigger? It's a new feature from Salesforce, and to enable asynchronous trigger operation on a particular object, what you need to do is enable change data capture. Let us go back and see how to enable change data capture. In setup, you can search for change data capture. And from here, you will be able to select for which all objects you need to enable CDC. I have already enabled it for contact, and most of the standard objects are available for CDC operation, and and all the custom objects are also available. But in a normal dev org, there are some limitations from Salesforce side on how many objects you can enable change data capture. For example, if I am selecting, let us select multiple objects, try to enable it and save it. You can see an error here. You you can select more entities. You have exceeded the maximum number of unique CDC selected entities, because in a developer edition you can have a maximum of 5 objects only. So let us not save this. I am cancelling this operation. So and it is automatically enabled for the other objects. So what is happening when you enable CDC on a particular object? At the backend, automatically a new change event object is getting created. For contact, it is contact change event. And whenever you are performing some operation on the contact, like you are creating a new contact, updating an existing contact, deleting an existing contact, or undeleting a deleted contact, on all these 4 operations, a new record is getting inserted to contact change event object, which is corresponding to the action you performed. And let us see my trigger. Actually, I have this is our contact change event trigger. For now, I have deactivated. The status is inactive. Let us activate this. And you can see the trigger is on an object called contact change event, and it is always an after-insert operation because a new object is getting, a new record is getting inserted to this particular object. Let us activate and save this. And to test this, make sure that all the previous actions, like let us deactivate the process builder using invocable method. And the other important thing to track details is that now we have enabled debug log for my user. But if you want to capture details of a CDC operation, you need to enable debug log on an automated process. So let us enable debug log. And the trace entity type should be automated process. And debug level also, let us select. And save this. Now let us go ahead and create a new contact. Populate account also. And this time, let us select country field value as France and save this record. Go back to the account and make sure that your country value got appended with France. Here you can see that the account country got appended with France also. So it's working fine. Now let us go to developer console to track the details. Since this is getting executed as an asynchronous operation, we will have a separate entry for this, and it will be showing as a platform event trigger. And below that, you will be able to see the actual execution of contact save that is not affected by the update operation, which is getting executed as a platform event. Let us open this platform event and change the mode to analysis. Let us track the limits details. So here also you can see SOQ list 1 and DM list 1. But the major difference is on the time taken. If you see the total time it has consumed is just 152 milliseconds. And the time for the actual update operation is 63.87 only. So almost 63. Now you can see the difference actually here. And it's clearly visible that async is still consuming a very less time only. But the other thing that you need to take care is that asynchronous operation has got daily limits also, especially with respect to platform events. There is a limit on number of events that can be fired per 24 hours. So if you are sure like you are within the limit, asynchronous trigger is always a good option for you. Let us move back to the presentation. Asynchronous trigger details we have already seen. Okay, this is a contact change event, how it will look like. It has got a header component which contains details like what kind of operation it was. Like here it is create operation. If it is an update, you will be seeing get change type as update. And after all the header components which contain some common parameters, you will be having all the field details of that particular account. Sorry, particular contact. If it is an update statement, only difference is that you will not be having all the field details as part of contact change event, but you will have only the fields which just got updated. So if you want to do some additional operations by fetching values from other fields, you might need to execute an additional query to fetch those details. But since you are in an asynchronous mode, it's still fine. Now let us see a tabular representation of execution details which I captured already before this session. Here also I have executed single record and also bulk record. For single record, from here you can clearly see that the lesser time is taken by an asynchronous operation, and even the number of SOQL consumed is just one in all scenarios, but PB plus flow is consuming 3 SOQL statements. So let us go back and see like how a PB plus flow is going to consume 3 SOQL statements. Okay, the first one is getting consumed when it is fetching all the contacts under that particular account. Let us go to the flow and see where the rest of SOQLs are getting consumed. Here you have a get record operation which is fetching the account that needs to be updated. Here the second SOQL is getting consumed, and third is consuming when the actual update operation is happening. As per the documentation of PBs and flow, you can see whenever we are executing a DML statement, it's consuming an SOQL statement also. Thus, it's consuming 3 SOQL statements. So think about the scenario like a simple logic in account object itself is consuming 3 SOQL queries. So when you have multiple logic as part of a record save or update operation, you can see that you can easily hit a SOQL governor limit operation. So we need to be very careful when you are deciding the solution as PB plus flow. For bulk operation also, you can see the PB plus flow is consuming around 624 milliseconds, whereas an async is just consuming 128. The first portion is 318 is actually the record save time, and 120 is the asynchronous operation execution time. This is a graphical representation. So based on my opinion, this kind of scenarios, if you are still within the asynchronous limit, better to go with an async option itself. A queuable Apex is also fine, but I think a queuable Apex has got transaction limit also. That is, in a single transaction, you can have a maximum of 50 queuable Apex or at future method calls only. So this is an analysis summary of whatever we have seen till now. There I have captured multiple scenarios. If the scenario is the before save and the logic is very simple, like we have just seen like a simple field update operation, always you can go ahead with a workflow solution. This is because it's not consuming any governor limits and also the performance is better. But if it's a before save and a complex scenario, a trigger is a better option if you are very much concerned about performance. But if you don't have time to execute or implement trigger, test class and everything, go ahead with a before update flow solution, but please don't go with a process builder because it is going to consume lots of transaction time and also SOQL statements. Let us consider an after save scenario. Like after save scenario, if performance is your major concern, I would say like asynchronous trigger is the best solution for us if you are still within the transaction limit. Else you can go ahead with a PB plus invocable method, but please don't use PB plus flow solution because it's consuming more SOQLs and the transaction time is also high. Another important note is that normally when you are implementing some functionality, you will do a unit testing. That is to just make sure that your functionality is working as expected. and you might also do a bulk testing. But in my opinion, in addition to that, you also need to do the performance analysis and governor limits analysis. Performance analysis means how many more minutes your current operation got added to the total transaction time, or how many more SOQLs and DML statement got added by your current solution. If it is high, you really need to revisit your solution. I hope whatever I was trying to explain is clear for you. Now let us go to some query optimization techniques. Like I mentioned before, one of the other reason for performance issue was bad performance of SOQL queries. So let us say how we can improve the SOQL query performance, that is utilizing query plan tool. I hope most of you have already used query plan tool. If not, I will give a high level detail on like how to utilize this. Let us go to developer console. And the first thing is you need to enable query plan tool. For that you need to go to help, and under preference you can see there is something called enable query plan. Make sure like the value is true. If that is true, that means like the query plan tool is already enabled. Now let us go to the query tab. In query editor, along with execute, you can see a query plan. So how this will help you to improve your query details? Let us have a simple query here, like select ID name from account. It's a simple query, right? You are going to fetch all the details from account, and you don't have any criteria filters or anything. And once you have the query written here, click on the query plan. Query plan tool, you can see that the cost of this query is 2.28. That means it's really high. According to Salesforce documentation, if the query needs to be optimized, its cost should be less than 1. And the leading operation type is table scan. That means if I execute a query like this, it's going to scan through entire table to fetch the results for us. It's not indexed, or no performance optimizations are applied here. And cardinality means number of records that this particular query is going to return. So this will give you more details about if the query is optimized or not. Now let us modify this query. How you can make this query optimized? If you add more filter criteria, then the query performance will be improved, especially if the filters are around index fields. There are so many standard index fields like ID, name, owner ID and all. In addition to that, if you feel like the query performance is not good, you can still go ahead and create your own custom index fields. Now here let us choose like a simple criteria like where name like plus percentage. So even based on Salesforce documentations, right, like operations are also not a good practice, or the performance might not be good when you have like statement. But it's still better. You can see the cost is less than 1 now, it's 0.77 only. How you can improve it further? Let us change this like operation as an equal to operation, and instead of name, let us use the ID, and let us try to give a specific ID. Let me take an ID from here, and yeah, I have copied the correct ID here. And now let us go to query plan and see. You can see the cost of that particular query is just 0.1. That means it's a very optimized query. But in most of the times you will not be able to give it as exactly equal to criteria, right? There will be more filters. But you will be able to utilize this query plan tool and improve your query performance. There are some additional details that you need to consider. That is, we discussed already, if you add index fields, the query performance will be improved, and you can add additional filters also that will improve query table. And better to always avoid null conditions, because if you have null conditions, that might not be having a good impact on the performance. For example, here let me change the criteria and just giving like name not equal to null. This is going to always true, but let us see what is going to be the cost. You can see the cost went back to 2.28. That means it's not at all an optimized query. So make sure you avoid conditions like not equal to null or not equal to something. It is going to affect the performance of your query. The other important thing is skinny tables. So in the past, when we have executed SQL queries against account at all, where we have got millions of data, we have seen that the query performance is very bad. Sometimes it was taking up to 4 to 5 minutes to complete a single SQL statement if the data size is really huge. So in that case, in those kind of situations, actually skinny tables will be really helpful. This is something will be created by Salesforce if we request them for a skinny table creation. But we will not be having direct access to this table. This will act as an in-between table between the actual database and our query. So whenever we are executing a query instead of the actual database, the query will be getting executed against the skinny table. There are some limitations on the number of fields that can be added to skinny tables and the type of fields or for which all objects you will be able to have skinny tables created. But as per my understanding, skinny tables are available for most of the major Salesforce objects like account, contact, opportunity and all. So this is going to really improve the performance of your query execution. So make sure like if you have got millions of data, contact Salesforce and create a skinny table for your particular object. The last one is on the deleted records in recycle bin. We have noticed that when we were executing some of the process builders in our system, the performance was really slow, and the reason was that one of our record was getting deleted very frequently through some code operation. And how that is going to affect the performance of your total transaction time. Let us see that with an example. For this execution, right, I have actually bulk inserted some account records to my system and executed a query statement in my account. You can see that the time consumed by that particular query operation is 33.55 milliseconds. After that, I deleted those records and executed the query again. As per Salesforce documentation, even if you delete a query, right, those records will remain in your recycle bin for 15 more days. And Salesforce still considers that those records exist in your system and consider deleted records also for query execution. Otherwise, you might need to give a specific scenario like is deleted is equal to false. But based on my experience, I have noticed that even if you are giving is deleted equal to false, still there is not much improvement in the query execution. So let us see like after deletion, how many minutes the query is going to take. You can see it is 15.07 milliseconds. So to remove the records from recycle bin and execute the query again, right? You have got two options. One is like you can go to recycle bin and manually delete those records. Something like this. Definitely it is not available in lightning mode, right? So let us switch to classic mode so that we can access recycle bin. And once you go to recycle bin, right, if you have got admin privilege, you can change the view as all recycle bin and you can do empty your organization's recycle bin. So that is going to delete all your date record in recycle bin. Or else if you want to delete only specific records, you can manually select those and perform the operation. But the problem is when there are large number of records that is getting deleted, it's not practically possible for us to delete them manually, right? Okay, let us go back and see the query performance after I deleted the records manually. You can see now the query is just consuming around 7.1 milliseconds. And the query performance got improved around 53% when I deleted those records from recycle bin. Like I said, it's not practically possible for us to go to recycle bin and remove the records from recycle bin always. So what other option you have? You will be able to remove those records programmatically also. For example, if the delete operation is happening through your code, right, after the record is getting deleted using delete statement, you can execute this line of code, that is database.empty recycle bin. This is going to mark that record for hard delete operation, but still the record might be available in your system for 24 hours. After 24 hours, this record will be getting hard deleted. And if the records are getting deleted in some other manner, like for example there is some integration process which is deleting your records, in that case what you can do is you can have some batch process which is looking into recycle bin for deleted records, and you can delete it in a scheduled manner. I hope these few tips are helpful for you to improve your query optimization. Now let us go to another topic which is related to page load performance. So in our case, we were more concentrating on classic view because Lightning was still in a transition mode for us. We are working on migrating all the classic features to Lightning. So most of the users are still using classic. So our area of interest was on classic page load performance. These are some tips which will help us to improve page load performance. One is like remove unused fields and unused related lists in your page. In many scenarios, we have seen that even if those fields are not getting utilized, that will be still in the page, and unnecessarily it is taking time to load those fields. So it's always better to remove those unused fields. Other thing is archive old records. Especially when you are having list views and all, right? If the record count is really huge, you might have noticed like the list view is taking too much time to load. So make sure like you have got some process which is going to back up your data to some other system in a scheduled manner. Maybe something like records which got created 2 years back, you can archive, or you can define your own criteria based on the business requirement. Lazy loading, we will come to this later. Enable separate related list loading. This is a user interface feature. Let me show you. So if you go to setup, right, search for user interface, and you can see under user interface, yeah, and under user interface you can see there is an option called enable separate loading of related list. What does that mean? It means when you load a particular page, for example, if you are loading an account record, right, you will be able to operate on your account record even before the corresponding related lists are getting loaded. So the page performance is not getting affected by the related list load. And the other issue we faced is with respect to Visualforce pages. Like you might be having lots of inline VF pages which might be getting data from some other external system, or which is doing some other operation within your page. And we had one of those page where we were having pagination, but we were using jQuery for pagination purpose. The problem is that when you have a jQuery code, when the page is getting loaded, the JavaScript is getting executed, it is doing all the operation, and the data is getting fetched and trying to load. Then the problem is like the page load is getting affected. So what we have done, we removed the jQuery code and moved the jQuery functionality to standard Salesforce Visualforce pagination. That improved the page load performance very much. And other option is like use with sharing with Apex class. Like if you have an inline VF page which is using without sharing, the problem is like during execution, it's going to consider all the records in your system. But if it is with sharing, it is going to consider only those records to which you have got access. I hope these tips are clear. So let me go to another important thing of Visualforce pages or normal other Lightning pages also, called lazy loading. What does that mean? So I have got an inline VF page. Let me show you that page actually. If you go to account record, right, In account record, you can see my account section, and this is a VF page where I am fetching all the accounts that I have created and displaying on a VF page. Now let us see like how to track performance. Go to developer tool, and under performance you will be able to see an option to record the page load performance. So click on this. This is going to reload your page, and at the end you will be getting the details of how many minutes the operation has consumed. Still getting executed. Okay, this might not be the scenario always. In my case, because the network coverage is not so good, you can see like it has taken around 10 seconds to complete this particular operation. Now, how we can apply lazy loading here? Lazy loading means you are not going to load everything at the initial load. Instead, you delay some of those operations later. One example can be like, instead of loading this account together, you can have a button action. You can have a button there, and once you click on that button only, you are going to fetch the accounts and retrieve those and display it on the screen. Let us try to make that change. Let me open that VF page which is getting actually displayed on the screen. Apex My Accounts. Yeah, Apex My Accounts. This is my VF page. So I am going to make a small change to this page so that it's not going to load everything together. You can see a command button here which is commented. Let me remove that commenting. And also let me add a rendered operation. So what it is doing, when I click on this button, right, it's going to re-render the complete page, and this page block is getting displayed only if this particular value is true. And on the button click, I will be making it as true so that it is going to fetch all the details and going to display the account related data. Let me save this page. You can see a button here, right? Okay. Now let us go back to this particular page, refresh it, and you can see only this load account button is coming here. Now let us track the performance. Let us record this again to get the total time taken. Still collecting the information, and you can see now it is just taking 6 seconds, whereas in the previous case it was taking around 10 seconds. This is for a simple scenario, but think about a case when you have integration existing as part of your inline VF page. That is, you are connecting to an external system, querying for some data and displaying it on the screen. Definitely your page performance is going to get affected. So in that kind of scenarios, this kind of approach, which is lazy loading, will be really helpful for you. This is something I have taken earlier. I think my network coverage was better during that time, so it was taking just 5 and 3 seconds only. In lightning mode, you will be able to improve performance using multiple techniques. So I'm not going to go through all those details, but I would like to share 2 important points. Let us switch back to lightning mode. In lightning mode also you will be able to track performance like this, but there is an easy approach. Here you can see something like EPT visible equal to 1. Okay, so let us add that to your URL. What it is going to do is like automatically when your page is getting loaded, you will be able to see the total time consumed at the top. You can see my current page took around 5 seconds to load. So in this way you will be able to easily track the performance in lightning mode. And other thing is similar to what we have seen just now. If you are in a lightning mode and if you have got Visualforce pages, instead of adding that to your page layout, using App Builder, you can have Visualforce as a separate component like you are seeing on the right hand side. And the advantage is that that component is independent and is getting executed without affecting your page performance. And initially when the page is getting loaded, right, so your page load is not getting affected by that Visualforce component. And Salesforce is calling that feature as progressive rendering. You can see after this page is loaded, then only this component is getting loaded. So your performance is not getting affected. These are some resources I referred for preparing for this session. When you are getting a chance, go through these details. These are going to be really helpful for you. And you can follow Apex Hours. Thank you so much for attending this session. And once again, thanks to Amit for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.